It is that time. Once again, we finally made it to another beginning of the NFL season. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Pollock, the executive producer, director, and creator of the Andy's Randomness YouTube channel. We're going to get right into it, my annual football predictions. And this is going to be a very interesting season because now we have 18 weeks. Yes, you heard me correctly. 18 weeks of football, where the last day of the regular season will begin on January 9th, which is a little bit unusual, but given the fact that last year the NFL agreed with the CBA that they would extend the season to another week and only have 3 preseason games, meaning the NFL playoffs won't start until January 15th, which is a bit unusual. I guess we're going to have to get used to this for a while, but good news is we still have the 3 wild cards. That's going to make things still exciting because we only used to have 2, but now it's 3. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into my predictions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go based on records and where I think teams are going to be seeded. So here we go. My number 1 seed will be the Kansas City Chiefs with a record of 15-2. As you all know, this is a super team led by Pat Mahomes, and we all know that he is definitely a candidate each and every year for a wide amount of reasons to be the MVP each and every year. But you still got a good core of your team available. You still got Pro Bowler Tyreek Hill. And as far as your running backs are concerned, it's going to be interesting to see how their depth will be with Clyde Howry, Jerick McKinnon, Darrell Williams. This is still a good team. They have a good defense, and I think that they will be the number 1 seed with a record of, once again, 15-2. I think they're only going to lose 2 games. There's still a possibility that maybe they go undefeated, but we're going to have to wait and see how it ends up. So my second seed, and I'm going to go with the most legit contender for the Kansas City Chiefs in the entire AFC, and that is going to be the Buffalo Bills, where I think the way things play out this year, I think they're going to end up with a record of 12-5. Now, you may be wondering, why am I giving them 1 win less? Well, I think the Patriots have a legit chance to compete. I don't think they will make the playoffs, and I'll get into that as we go along in this video. But I just see something happening with the Bills where they end up with a 12-5 record. Now, why are you coming up with these weird numbers? You're asking yourself. Well, remember, 18 games. You add 1 more game, it would be 12-5, not 11-5. So they will end up with a record of 12-5, and they will be the 2nd seed in the AFC. Now, maybe they have a surprising season. Maybe they do better than the Chiefs, and maybe they shock us to earn that first round bye. Because remember, with the wild card rule, remember, the 2nd seed in each conference has to play. But there could be a possibility that the Bills somehow shock us. Now, you have Devin Singletary as your longtime running back, but you may see Christian Reid get some few plays in this season. The wide receiver depth is going to be very interesting because you got Cole Beasley, you got Stephon Diggs, you got Emmanuel Sanders. Oh, and also I forgot to mention for Kansas City, you still got Kelsey. But as far as tight end is concerned on the Bills, I just am not impressed with any other tight end other than Sean Nelson. But, hey, I'm just going to be honest here. A 12-5 season for the Buffalo Bills, definitely possible. So I'm going to end up picking the Buffalo Bills to end up with that final record. Now we are going to move on to the AFC South, where I think the Tennessee Titans will end up with a record of, And I'm going to be fair here, so that way I don't get judged for making the wrong number. I think they will end up with a record of 11-8. They will still make the playoffs. They will still end up in winning the division, of course, which they're supposed to. I mean, maybe there's a shock that Indianapolis somehow surprises us. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. But you still got Derrick Henry, and remember this, you still got a good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, and your wide receiver depth is Julio Jones, you just acquired. You have A.J. Brown. I mean, there's a possibility the Titans shock us this year and maybe perform up to better expectations other than an 11-8 record, which could still happen. I still think they will end up being the 3rd seed just because the AFC North is going to be very complicated. So I will move on to the AFC North right now, and my winner is going to be the Cleveland Browns. They will end up with a 10-7 record. Now, why do I think they're going to end up with a 10-7 record? Well, it's going to be very complicated, knowing that the Ravens are still going to be around and the Steelers are still going to be around in this division. But remember this, Cleveland is still a very talented team, because even though I'm a Ravens fan, I just somehow see the Browns getting the upper hand against the Ravens this year. Unless maybe Lamar can do some magic like he did last season. It's just really going to have to come down to a lot of factors for the Browns. I mean, is Odell Beckham going to stay healthy? I mean, yes, Jarvis Landry did a good job picking up a lot of that missed depth. You also got Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, that will be something to keep an eye on. But not just Baker Mayfield, but remember, you have good running back depth. You have Nick Chubb, and you have Kareem Hunt. So, for that, I'm going to give Cleveland the division. So they will be your 4 seed in the AFC North. So again, let's recap what I just said. I'm going to flash it very quickly on the screen right now. Kansas City is your 1 seed. Buffalo is your 2 seed. Tennessee is your 3 seed. And then Cleveland will be your 4 seed. So now let's move on to the wild cards. First up, I'm going to go quite obvious on who I think will end up with the 5 spot, and that will be the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens can still end up getting a good running back to help out Gus Edwards, but the Ravens do have a good wide receiver core. Now, remember this. The Ravens in the offseason acquired Sammy Watkins. They also have Rashad Bateman and Hollywood himself, Marquise Brown. And you also have Miles Boykins. You have a pretty good wide receiver depth. Now, keep in mind, the Ravens' backup quarterback situation is very interesting because Tyler Huntley, I didn't even know who he was until late in the season last year. And I will admit, I'm kind of upset they cut McSorley, but maybe McSorley will be on the... Trace McSorley. He will be on the practice squad. But somehow, some way, Baltimore may end up with the same record because the way this division works and the way this new format works with the 18-game season, the way it's going to work, there's a possibility that at the end of the season, you're looking at a possibility where Baltimore, Cleveland, and this is where I'm going to make my next controversial pick, and I know I'm going to get judged for this, but I think the Steelers end up with the same record and end up with the 6th seed. Now, why do I think this is going to end up happening? Well, as far as Pittsburgh is concerned, remember this. You still got Big Ben, where look at Ben Roethlisberger last season. He was putting up his old school type numbers. We went back to the early 2010s thinking, wait a minute, this isn't the early 2010s. This isn't the late 2000s where Big Ben was on his prime. Well, yeah. If Big Ben can stay healthy and somehow, some way, the Steelers somehow surprise us, which they did last season. They got off to a hot start. Everybody remembers that. You still got Juju Smith-Schuster. You got Dante Johnson. And, you're in pretty good shape if you're wondering what the Steelers are going to do. But they're just not going to go far in the playoffs. But I do think they will end up with the same record. And this is where it gets interesting, because Week 18, the Ravens play the Steelers. And by then, Cleveland will be... It could be a possibility where wild card and the AFC North are on the line, because Cleveland's going to be playing Cincinnati that day on January 9th. So I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's a possibility that you're looking at 3 teams like last season. You got Cleveland, you got Baltimore, and you got Pittsburgh, where they're all going to be chasing for the same wildcard spots and the division. So it could end up being that way. Now, as far as the AFC West is concerned, but this is going to come down to a lot of factors, and I know I'm going to get criticized for making the ultimate decision here, but, and I do mean but with emphasis here, I am going to end up picking the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, you heard me correctly. The Las Vegas Raiders with a record, and I know it's going to be a controversial record on how I think they will sneak in. I think the Raiders are going to end up with a 10-7 record. Now, why do I think so? Well, the Raiders kind of do got it going good for them. It's just that, is Joshua Jacobs going to be a good running back to lead them the way? I mean, you got Jalen Richard, but as far as your tight end is concerned, remember this, and this is going to be very important going into the season. You still got Jason Witten. Travis Kelce, actually, I do apologize. Come to think of it, it's going to be interesting when you see Vegas, and I thought this last year too, Vegas and Kansas City playing the tight end battle. That's going to be something fun to watch going into the season. We still got your future Hall of Famer tight end. As far as wide receiver is concerned, you got Henry Ruggs, you got Willie Snead. Well, Willie Snead was acquired in the offseason. You got Hunter Renfrow. So why not Vegas? Why not the Raiders? If Derek Carr, and I know I'm being controversial for saying this, but if Derek Carr can stay healthy and somehow, some way, Vegas can somehow surprise a lot of people, you're looking at a very good situation in Vegas. And remember, you still got Mariota as your backup quarterback. So I'm just saying this right now. If Vegas does not make the playoffs this year, there's going to be a lot of controversy. If Vegas does not get in, this is going to be John Gruden's last season as coach of the Raiders. So John Gruden's job is on the line if he does not make the playoffs in Vegas this year. The fans in Vegas are going to be after his head if their team, the so-called team that was supposed to give them hype to the promised land, to give the desert some hope, Vegas is going to make it. I have a lot of good faith. Okay, now let's move on to the NFC, where my number 1 seed, and I know it's going to be obvious who I'm picking, I'm going to end up picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who will finish with a record of 14-3. So obviously, the defending Super Bowl champions will be the 1 seed. We know about Tom Brady. We know about the Tampa Bay Bucks being a super team. And obviously, remember this. You still got Rob Gronkowski. You still got Antonio Brown. You still got Chris Goodwin. You still got Mike Edwards. Tampa's still a very dangerous team. You got Leonard Fournette, still a good quality running back. So Tampa is still the defending champions. Tampa somehow still does their Tampa ways, led by Tom Brady, and will end up with a record of 14-3. So now we're going to move on to something that I think will definitely happen. The 2 seed in the NFC will be the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm going to give them a record of 13-4. So, Tampa gets a record of 14-3. And then you have Tampa 1. Green Bay with a record of 13-4. So, where do I begin with the Green Bay Packers? Well, the only reason why they are in this position is because the Packers still have Aaron Rodgers. Or Aaron Rodgers was thinking of retiring to become the full-time host of the popular game show Jeopardy! Thankfully, that didn't happen, and a lot of people who invest money into the NFL Sunday Ticket to watch Aaron Rodgers play are having a big smile on their face as I'm discussing them, yes. So, running backs. You got Aaron Jones, you got A.J. Dillon, good quality running backs in Green Bay at Lambeau. You got Randall Cobb, you got Devontae Adams, you got Alan Lazard, Marcus Valdes-Sterling. I know their wide receiver core very well in Green Bay. And your tight end. I mean, what else is there to say about your tight end depth? You got Jermichael Finley. And when he's matched up against Jimmy Graham, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So, I love the Bears-Packers rivalry, but Chicago's going to be in a very tough situation this year. It's not looking good if you're a Bears fan. I'm sorry, but it's a mess in Chicago this year. Okay, now we move on to the NFC West. Now, this is going to be a bold prediction, which a lot of experts think will happen, but I think the 49ers will live up to their expectations, led by quarterback Trey Lance. So, this is going to be interesting to watch Trey Lance come in and take over as quarterback for the 49ers. Now, your wide receiver depth, you got Jalen Hurd, you got Brandon Ulach, and your running back, you're looking at a situation where you have Raheem Mostert. So, hey, I think the Niners could surprise us. Are they going to win the division? I don't think so. No. Could they? You know what? Let's put them as our 3 seed. I was just teasing. Now, according to what I'm reading online, they look to see if they can stay healthy. If they're healthy, they are capable of winning their division. So therefore, the 49ers will end up with a record of 11-6 and will win the NFC West. So there you go. They will go from worst to first and surprise everyone, or there's a possibility that the Niners are not impressed early in the season. They give up on Lance and somehow end up with Jimmy G back as their quarterback. So we'll have to see how that happens. And lastly, I'm going to go right into it. The NFC East, this big juggernaut of the NFC East. And I know I'm going to make a popular prediction on where I think this could happen. And I know there's going to be a lot of controversy for suggesting that this could happen. And hey, I get judged for it. Too bad. I really do not care. But you're seeing this team correctly. I really think the New York Giants are going to end up winning the division with a record of 10-7. Now, why do I think this is going to happen? Well, let's look at the obvious for the New York Giants. They need to stay healthy. If Daniel Jones can stay healthy this season, if Saquon Barkley can go to his form where he was a long time ago, can Sterling Shepard and Kenny Golladay and Darius Slayton help out Daniel Jones, and you got a good tight end. You got a very good tight end in New York with, and I know I'm controversially saying this, you got Kyle Rudolph, a good quality player who used to play for the Minnesota Vikings. You're in a good situation in New York. So, why not the Giants? They will be your 4 seed, and they will win the NFC East. So very quickly, we're just going to go over it again. 1 seed will be Tampa. 2 seed will be Green Bay. 3 seed will be San Francisco. And 4 seed will be the Giants. There you go. Just seeing it flash very quickly. So right now on the screen, you will be seeing my first wild card pick. I will pick the Seattle Seahawks to be the 5 seed. Now, their record is going to be something interesting here. I think they will make the playoffs with a 10-7 record. I gave the Niners an 11-6 record, so we have to give the Seahawks a 10-7 record to make it into the playoffs. Now, in Seattle, it's not going to be sleepless for most of the time, but what you are worried about is the health of the team. I mean, yes, you got Chris Carson, you got Rashard Penny, but your wide receivers are injury prone. Lockett and Metcalf have had a dark history with injuries. I mean, if they stay healthy, they can compete with the Niners, maybe even win the division. It could be either way. Could be either way. You got Luke Wilson, so why not the Seahawks get that wild card spot, right? Okay, next up, I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys as my second team. So, I think they will end up with a record of, and I know it's going to be controversial that I'm even giving them this record, but I think they will end up with a record of 10-7, end up having the same record as the Giants, but the NFC is going to be a juggernaut this year. If Dak Prescott can stay healthy, if Elliott can stay healthy, and you got Gallup as your wide receiver, you got Cooper, I mean, you're in pretty good shape in Dallas, but you need to stay consistent in Big B. That's the way I'm going to look at it. And then this is where I get even more controversial, is I think the New Orleans Saints will make the playoffs with a record of 9-8. Now, why is the Saints going to end up with the last wild card? You're going to have Jameis Winston. You're going to have Mr. Hill. Okay, that's who I'm going to call him as. But let's just give his first name out. Taysom Hill, to be specific. You still got Alvin Kamara, who can give you a good season. And I even think the Vikings are going to be in that discussion as well. But it could come down to the last day of the season where Minnesota and New Orleans are neck and neck for the wild card on January 9th. I could see it happening. You got Michael Thomas. You got Dante Harris. And, you're looking at a good situation in New Orleans where if things end up very good for you, you're in a good position in New Orleans. So they end up with the last wild card spot. So there you have it. My 2021 NFL predictions. A lot of controversy with the NFC East. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for it. But again, I just somehow, some way, end up seeing the New York Giants ending up winning the division. And if I'm wrong about that, you can judge me all you want. Somehow Washington gets in again. But come on. This is a different season. The Giants have a lot of expectations on them this year. And I know you're going to say, why am I giving them that? Well, again, they have a good core in New York. And if somehow, some way they don't make it in, I'll be very surprised. Because third-year quarterbacks do very well. And Daniel Jones, I think, can prove that this year. So thank you all very much for watching. We have our season opener on Thursday night with the Buccaneers taking on the Cowboys. Should be a fun game to watch on NBC. And the game will also be on Peacock if you want to watch it that way. So until the next one, please take care.